We're here at Radio Days in Prague, and this is Noel Curran, an Irishman as well, and he is the Director General of the EBU. Noel, relevance of radio. We keep hearing that streaming services are taking over from radio. You have the European perspective. How is radio faring across the continent?
Radio is incredibly resilient. That doesn't mean there isn't a big threat to all other media because platforms are just so big, but radio is incredibly resilient. 84% of the population around Europe tune in once a week. Over 70% of young people, 70% have a weekly fix of radio. Today that's just incredible.
When you say radio, 70% of young people, are you talking about listening to an on-air terrestrial signal? Or are you talking about consuming radio maybe through a social media post or a podcast?
Consuming radio and all. There's still quite a lot of young people who are actually consuming old-style linear radio, but they are also obviously accessing it in loads of different ways. There's been an explosion in podcasting in terms of the younger generation as well. So, nobody is underestimating the challenges everybody faces, but radio is resilient. Trust in radio is huge. And,
more so than television?
Oh, way ahead.
Why is that?
I think it's part of in 70% of European countries, radio is the most trusted medium. Why? I think it comes back to that intimacy, that sense of ownership of it, that connection, the fact that radio journalists are just really good, and there's a lot of top quality journalism and innovation in radio. So I think it's a whole range of factors, but it's precious because what we know about the platforms is people watch them, but they don't trust them. So if you can transfer that trust in radio into that online space, you have something quite unique.
The power of that brand on radio that can float across all
the brand, that connection, that sense of intimacy, also the sense of two-way information flow and exchange, that people can go on air, they can pick up a telephone and get on air on radio immediately and express the view, and all of that makes it very unique.
In terms of public service broadcasting across Europe, when we see them competing with commercial broadcasters, but now not only commercial broadcasters, but competing with the giants like Spotify and Apple, where they just can't compete with budgets. What can someone like the EBU do to help and support national public service broadcasters, radio broadcasters?
What we do is we bring people together. We grow the overall impact by bringing all the members together, big and small. We have an executive board that has the Director Generals of the 4 biggest broadcasters, public service broadcasters in the world on the executive board. We also have people from smaller radio stations, So it's bringing everyone together in terms of sharing content, in terms of exchange of information and expertise, particularly around transformation. That's our big drive in the EBU, is how we help our members transform their organisations. And then around making the case for public service media, be it in Brussels, be it in national, on a national level. So bringing people together, increasing the impact of public service media by having 115 media organisations on a single goal. That's the real impact that the EBU can have.
I want to ask you about Eurovision in a second, because I'm a Eurovision fan. This man is, I'm sure, a Eurovision fan too, but you directed the Eurovision, or you produced it back in the 90s. But one final question about the mechanics of radio. The last few radio days, so many discussions about DAB, and you look at somewhere like Norway, completely DAB, somewhere like Ireland where it just didn't seem to work. Why is it that in some European countries DAB has taken off and is now the preferred choice of listening, and in other countries it kind of failed?
Yeah, I think, the whole future around DAB Plus is still a story to be written, by the way. We haven't seen the end of that. I think it's a lot of different factors. The reaction of the commercial sector in some countries was quite different to other countries, much more negative. The regulatory framework. Did the governments set a goal of switch off? A whole range of different things. The whole digital, the digital penetration generally in a country, access to Wi-Fi. There's a whole range of different reasons for it.
Because it seems like they've given up the fight in certain countries.
In some countries they have, in other countries not. But I still think there's a road to go there, and let's see where we end up on that.
Now, you produced the Eurovision Song Contest in 1997. Why are you
I was a
smiling when I say
child,
that?
'cause
You were
I was a child.
prodigy. Now it is a unique position, of course, because
Yes.
it will be, talk to me about this, it's produced by Ukrainian television still, but it will be hosted by the BBC.
Well, it's
Is it more of a co-production?
It's a co-production, really, and I think the BBC, obviously, because it's in Liverpool, are driving most of it, but they've completely included Ukraine. Unfortunately, we couldn't do it in Ukraine. I would have loved to have done it in Ukraine.
Was that even a consideration?
Well, Ukraine initially wanted to do it, so we had to consider it, and we looked at venues and we looked at locations, but just the threat to people not traveling, electricity made it impossible. And the Ukrainians, we came to an agreement with them and the EBU and the UK, so it's been produced together. Obviously BBC are driving it, but they are totally involving Ukraine in presentation and brand, in the Ukrainian culture, in the feel of the contest. And I can tell you, it's going to be special. It is really going to be something special in terms of what the BBC have done with the support of and involvement of UAPBC in Ukraine. I really think this one is going to be quite special.
And finally, what are you hoping that it will do for the people of Ukraine who are sitting at home watching their show on TV this year?
I think that what they will get from it is a huge sense of Ukrainian culture on a national stage, on an international, unprecedented international stage. I think they will get a sense of pride that they won, and that they are now being seen and incorporated in all the production. And also, I hope, we all want to see it in Ukraine at some time in the future. So let's aim for that as well.
Noel, thank you very much.
Cheers. Thank you.